I'm Jeff Cook,
And I'm TJ Wilson.
and this is Around the Circle.
I'm walking slowly, I'm taking my time. All I could talking is starting to rhyme. I'm letting go of lonely, letting go of strife. I just can't get enough of this beautiful life.
The Enneagram is a map of the human personality. It's a tool for navigating relationships. It creates language for what motivates us and helps us look at the way we look at everything else. Most importantly, the Enneagram is a mirror because sometimes you need help seeing yourself. My name is Jeff Cook. I am a philosopher, pastor, writer in Greeley, Colorado, and with me is TJ Wilson, businessman, lover of theology, and Enneagram ninja.
Hello.
My man.
Hey.
Today, we get to your people.
We got to my people. We made it.
It's going to be a podcast on the nines.
On the nines.
We are wrapping up
yes.
our basic deep dive into each of the types.
Uh-huh.
So basic.
So basic that they're all an hour long.
This is exactly what we weren't quite anticipating. But
Oh,
I've enjoyed
was.
this. Were you?
Yeah.
You just know how this rolls?
Yep.
Dumb Jeff. Prepping things in these ways.
Got to make it right.
You got that's it. It's got to make it thorough and complete. And I literally, friends, I was thinking these were going to be 20 minutes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Nope.
I had no hope of that.
The realist and the idealist, or the optimist. I got an optimistic streak in me.
yeah.
I like.
I'm very pessimistic for a 9.
That's it. That's why we balance each other. I say this is what we should do, and TJ goes,
Yeah, sure.
that
We'll see
might-
how that goes. It's fine.
When that fails, I'll be here to lift you up and say, you're a good guy.
All right.
In fact, this is
I'm
what
in.
I like about nines in my life.
Tell me, what do you like about 9s?
Since you asked, the thing I appreciate most about the nines in my life is that they are the voice that counters my inner critic, and I love me some nines because I will when I'm in healthy relationships with nines in my life, and I say, "Hey, I'm really struggling with this." Nines can quickly diagnose the inner conflict and speak over it with insight, passion, and especially with a soothing balm of, hey, I don't think you need to worry about that.
Sure.
Hey, I think you're being too hard on yourself.
Sure. Yeah.
Hey, this is going much better than you are articulating.
It's going to be all right.
It's just gold.
Yeah. It's good.
What do you appreciate about the nines in your life?
I like looking in a mirror. No, I'm kidding. I think one of the things I like the most about the other 9s that I'm in relationship with is that I feel safe being much more myself around
Oh.
other 9s.
Yeah.
Like there's so much of my energy
Yeah.
that is spent making sure that this environment is peaceful.
Yeah, this person's not going to cause conflict with,
With
you.
other 9s, it's just like we can follow rabbit trails and we can say things that might offend each other, and like I feel so much more safe with other 9s because I know how it's gonna go.
I think that's real common for all the types.
Sure.
I could see that in particular. Nines not having, well, what would that be? I bet you all the types feel as though they can be much more themselves and be understood in these relationships.
Yeah.
So one of the things we have said throughout this podcast is that the Enneagram is about the goal of human life, and the goal is joy. And today we're going to talk about the road to joy and what that looks like for nines. The great Donald Miller says that story is about a character who wants something and overcomes an obstacle to get it. The Enneagram is all about a character who wants something. It's you. You are the character and you want something. And your Enneagram type is a name for what you want. And the obstacle that is in front of you is your shadow. And the Enneagram also tells you what that looks like. And joy is ahead if you can overcome that obstacle.
Yep.
That's the big, deep work
Yeah.
of Enneagram studies.
Good.
So we're going to mention 24 or so truths about the nines. And here's the road from what you want to what your shadow is to what the promised land looks like.
Yeah. It's good.
So let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's talk about some basics.
Yeah.
What are some names for nines?
Well, we have the Peacemaker is the most common name.
And that's actually about it. You get one name.
There are other names.
Tell me some other names.
So we also see the Mediator a lot. Some of the things that we've seen in other places, the Comforter,
that's
or
good names.
the. I think we really like the Peaceful Mediator. Like,
Yeah.
I think that it sort of encompasses the two of the more important aspects.
The mediation side is I can see the sides
Right.
clearly
Yep.
from a neutral vantage point,
Mhm.
and because I'm seeking to avoid conflict, specifically I want things to be good among other people around me.
Mm-hmm.
I can mediate in a peaceful state.
Yeah.
There's the name.
Yeah.
And that moves to the basic needs,
Yep.
primary desire for a nine. How would you articulate that?
Well, our desire is to maintain peace, to have balance and sort of inner stability. And this is externally and internally. This is one of the reasons that we're so tired. We have the least amount of energy of all the types. 8s have the most, 9s have the least. And this is because we are spending so much energy trying to maintain peace inside of ourselves and maintain peace outside of ourselves. Because we want it to we just want everything to go smoothly.
Nines are part of the gut triad,
Mm-hmm.
instinctive body type.
Great.
Talk about the body types.
So body types, 8s, 9s, and 1s, we are all, this is how we process information. This is how we take in information and interact with the world. This is, so the gut types are taking in the world through our body. This is action oriented. This is the way that the energy of the space feels. This is what gut instinct is about. It's that, like, having a thought that's not a thought or a feeling, but just sort of an intuition.
Nines take in the world through their body, but there's something unique about the nines.
We are in the middle of that triad, just like 3s in the heart space and 6s in the head space. We take in the world through our body, but we do not engage the world through our body. We actually have equal access to thinking and feeling in engagement, but we don't act. We take in the world through our gut, but we don't act from there.
Now, we'll talk more about that when we talk about stances and action repression.
Yep.
But because nines are in the body triad, they are also resistant to the present. So how does that materialize with nines?
Well, it's I think of it a lot like that sort of going to sleep to now. So we are, again, we'll talk about this in the stance, but we're sort of past focused, and so we're more interested in remembering what has kept us safe. We're remembering what has helped us maintain a certain level of control and peace within our sphere, and we resist the present because the present is filled with conflict.
Here it is.
Yeah.
You mentioned in the stance that stance is about how we get what we want. And nines, let's just start with being past focus in your stance.
Sure.
You're aware of things in the past? How does that work?
Well, and we are sort of oriented to the past in the way that we think about how things have gone before in order to make decisions about what we're doing now. So, and we're sort of sentimental in that way, and it has a lot to do with spending more mental energy on our past than on what's in front of us right now.
Yeah. Stance is about how we get what we want, and nines are withdrawn in their stance. That is, they withdraw to get the thing they want, and what they want is control or
Right.
autonomy. All body types, 8s, 9s, and 1s, want autonomy. 9s, in order to get it, are going to withdraw.
Right.
So you want to talk about that?
Well, it's 4s, 5s, and 9s. We all withdraw to get the thing that we want. And for 9s, we step back in order to gain our own autonomy, our own control. Because we want to keep the peace, we never want to enter into conflict. We avoid conflict like the plague, and just so much more than like the plague. We avoid conflict like crazy. We hate, do not know how to handle conflict. And so we step back, and that means that in that avoiding conflict, we do not want to assert ourselves on someone else. So we step back for control. We're not going to tell you what to do, and we're not going to fight with you about you telling us what to do. We're actually just going to take a step back.
There is commonly a perception of 9s being passive aggressive in this way.
Yeah.
Is you want something. You want to be in control of the things that you want to be in control of.
Right.
It's not everything.
Right.
But it's some things.
Right.
And you are going to take that control
Mm-hmm.
in a passive way.
Yeah.
In a withdrawn way.
Yeah, and this stubbornness is also part
there's
of
a good
our
word.
thing. And 9s are particularly adept at making other people think that they agree with them. You can tell a 9 to do something, and you can think that the 9 is going to do that thing.
Yep.
And then 2 weeks later, you find out that the 9 didn't. It's because the 9 didn't want to, or they forgot, or they took a nap, or they got distracted. Something happened, but probably it has a lot to do with the fact that the 9 was never going to do it in the first place because they don't want to be controlled by you.
We've said this in the past, but there's 2 very successful politicians in the last 40 years, Reagan and Obama, who are likely 9s.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons that they may be very successful is because they have this skill of being able to exude understanding, meet the person where they're at, be able
Absolutely.
to say all the right things in the lingo that will not arise conflict.
Right.
The person thinks that they have. And Lincoln, actually, I saw Lincoln listed recently, not as a 4, but as a 9.
Okay.
I'm thinking on this recently. When we do our Lincoln deep dive into the Spielberg movie,
Sure.
we can talk about this.
Yeah.
But there is something about that I imagine would be very valuable in a political sphere.
Mm-hmm.
You do want the 9s do have ideals,
Yeah.
and like all the body types, have a radar for justice,
Mm-hmm.
and yet will achieve that in a different kind of way. And
Right.
so anyway, that could be a superpower. That's
Yeah.
not necessarily a bad thing to
Yeah.
be able to navigate the relationships professionally.
Right. And this is a really great way to think about and to sort of demonstrate that idea that we do not engage the world through our action center, but we actually have equal access to thinking and feeling. So in a space where I disagree with the person across from me, I can actually communicate using thoughts and feelings and those 2 centers that I understand what they're saying and communicate to them in ways that will make them think that I agree with them. But the action center is repressed in the way that I will actually step back and not do the thing that they're talking about.
Yep. Here's a quote from Lincoln in which his son is yelling at him. He's mad. He says, "You're delaying. It's your favorite tactic," as he walks
Yes.
away.
We're fantastic at procrastination.
I just had another
So
thing.
good at
Do you know what a pocket veto is?
Uh-huh.
Lincoln is the first to use the pocket veto.
Of course he was the first one.
And so he gets a
Yep.
bill. It's been signed by the legislature. He just puts it in his pocket.
Yep.
We'll leave this for
Yeah,
later.
we'll deal with
maybe.
this later. Yeah.
That is withdrawing to gain control.
Yep.
I could use this. I could pull this out in 5 months if I need something.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you have given this to me, and I'm going to hoard it.
Yeah. And I'm not going to tell you that I'm not going to do this because that might cause a fight.
Yes. Yeah. It's not explicitly vetoed.
Right.
I suppose that's where it is.
Yeah.
History nerd out. Okay, so coping style. 9s, I hear, like all the other types, are going to experience difficulties and problems in life. So how's it that the 9 copes with problems.
So 9s are part of that positive outlook group. And this is the sort of, we pretend like the problems don't exist. We say, don't worry about it. It's going to be all right. We did not mention something that's important, but I think it's appropriate that we didn't mention it in the Intelligence Center. It's that 8s, 9s, and 1s all struggle with anger. But 9s are really bad at it because anger leads to conflict. And so we repress our anger. We turn off our anger. A lot of us are unaware of our anger on the inside, and the coping style is part of that. We don't know how to engage anger appropriately. And I heard a psychologist who had really spent time with the Enneagram, a professional therapist, who just said, giving permission to 9s to understand that we are bad at anger, and it's okay that we don't know how to do it well. And it might be okay that we aren't trying to do it well, but we're actually trying to figure out how to deal with it as opposed to getting better at it. So part of our repression of our anger is that we turn off our anger. We do that positive outlook thing. So we say, you know what? I'm not going to worry about this. It's going to be all right. And we sort of go to sleep to problems.
Is there wisdom there for 9s who are told this? You have issues with anger.
Mm-hmm.
What would be some wisdom there in terms of saying, here's 3 things that you could do to kind of deal with that in a healthy way, to understand your anger, to push into positive steps? Or do you have wisdom there?
First off, countering that positive outlook, your anger can be a problem, and you can't just ignore it. You can't ignore your anger. Second, start to become aware of your triggers. Like, become aware of the signs that anger is developing in you, and don't ignore them.
Yeah.
Third, figure out how to vent that anger.
We have a friend who's a 9 who is doing a lot of inner work right now and becoming aware of all the things that they should have been angry about for a while. And it's bringing up those emotions.
Yeah.
And now it's twofold.
Yep.
They are angry at their past, and they're angry at the fact that they're now becoming aware of their past.
Yep.
And so it's like this double anger.
Yep.
and it is
And they're
spilling out.
really bad at it. So it's coming out in really inappropriate ways.
When they talk about it, that's what goes on.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm angry about both these things. And it's like, this is going to take some time and work. And, and they don't know how to talk about it.
And I'm so bad at it, and I can't get better at it, which makes me more angry.
it's
the worst.
I didn't think about that. It's cyclical.
Yep.
Oh, that's
So
interesting.
find someone that you can just yell with.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so great. Like that is actually, I sometimes worry that, like, if we lived in an apartment, like, people would think that I'm really, really mean to my wife.
Okay.
Because she is a safe place for me to yell. To be clear, I'm not yelling at her. I'm yelling to her about other things that I'm angry about.
When I lived in an apartment complex, there was always this sound from our neighbor's apartment. And we were like, what the hell is that? It was this like rumbling that took place. Well, it turns out that the guy next door was a psychology PhD student.
Okay.
And one of the things that they were experimenting with their anger was yelling into a full bathtub. So they would fill it with water, put their head under the water, and then just scream. And so we would hear like, it's like rumbles at like 7 at night. It's like, what the hell is that?
Yeah, it's perfect.
It's like, excuse me.
Don't worry about it. It's a therapy thing. Don't worry about
it. But that's true. It's like figuring out, you understand as a 9 that you are angry, even if it's the case that it's repressed. Would that be it? You understand you're angry.
Right.
You may not be feeling angry.
Right.
But there needs to be methods of engaging those spaces that it's not just need work, they need release.
Right. Right. Batting cages is a great thing to do. Just go pay $10 to knock the snot out of something for a little while.
My f-
Buy printers at the thrift store and
Yeah.
take them to a field and beat them to hell with a bat. It's a great release.
It's so good.
Yeah.
My favorite boxer is Evander Holyfield. If you have not seen the fantastic documentary Chasing Tyson, if you like boxing, it's just phenomenal. But he comes across as a 9,
Mm-hmm.
just super even keel, soft spoken, definitely like conflict averse dude.
Yeah.
And yet, that's entirely it.
Yeah.
Is like he hits things hard
Right.
and
Right.
and gets his anger out. It's also the case that one of the more recent heavyweight champions, Ruiz, I bet you as a 9, he comes across just fun loving and just even keel. And,
Sure.
but same
Steps in
story.
the rink and turns on the tap,
Just does.
knocks the hell out of somebody.
He just broke that guy's jaw.
Yeah.
Back to coping style then.
Yes.
You do need to release that anger,
Right.
but that's not always how you solve problems.
Right. Yeah.
So-
So that problem solving is about sort of reframing disappointment, reframing the anger, reframing the situation into a positive spin. But oftentimes on the unhealthy side, it's ignoring the problems. On the healthy side, it's trying to get a little bit better perspective that maybe the problem isn't as big a deal as other people think it is.
Yeah. We said this with the 7s as well. With the positive coping style, 9s are spinning things positive in order to get control again. It's like there is a problem here.
Right.
It is assaulting your sense of control.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I can spin this positive in your own heart
Mm-hmm.
and perhaps to others, you're going to regain stability.
Right.
Is that how that works?
Right. Well, like thinking about the economy, like if there were more 9s reporting about the economy, then we probably would have way less economic problems, like ups
Oh.
and downs.
Yeah,
like,
instability.
Like because a big part of the problems with the economy is people freaking out about it.
Okay. Yeah.
And so if there was a little more level-headedness in us just talking about it, then we wouldn't then literally the problems would be less.
We have started to put together a list of songs that go that are the constant tunes playing in the hearts of each type. And
Yeah.
presently, my favorite is a Bob Marley tune called Three Little Birds.
Doesn't matter, all of them, all of the Bob Marley tunes.
But of course, the Three Little Birds is every little thing
Yeah.
is gonna be all right.
Yep. Don't you worry.
There
Not a thing.
is something real we said this with 7s. There's something real positive with being able to overlook the problem and elevate the uplifting aspects of life.
Mhm.
And yet there's also an obvious downside if that's where you go.
Right. Because we can easily just ignore very real problems.
Brings us to the harmony triad. 9s are pragmatists. That is, they establish a practical, sustained role in the world. That's how they connect with the world and with other people. Any thoughts on 9s and their pragmatism?
Well, just like 3s and 6s, pragmatists are trying to figure out what works and what doesn't in order to get the thing that they want. What works in order for me to gain control and autonomy over my own space. I'm going to practice those things. I'm going to draw those things into me, the things that work to keep the peace around me. This is what I want in my space all the time. That's why I have such a comfortable chair. And I don't want the things that disrupt my autonomy.
The relationships of 9s are going to feed their motive. 9s want control, will attach in relationships to those that give them control.
Right.
How does that work? Because that is another one of these places that it's counterintuitive to me until you say it. And then I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
But how do you experience that?
So because 9s are looking for autonomy, but without being controlling of others, they want to attach themselves to relationships that provide them that space and don't expect that much from them. So it is very much about like what relationships in my life give me the things that I need. If I want autonomy, but I do not want to demand it from other people, then I need people in my life that I can step away from, that provide me the space to do the things, to be my own self.
Yep. And we've said this in the past that 3s are going to attach in order to get the attention. 6s attach to relationships that are going to give them security.
Right.
And there it is for the 9s.
Right.
This is how this would materialize. I read this. I thought this was interesting. I would win your thoughts. Dr. David Daniels, who is a Stanford professor who did a lot of work on harmony triads. In fact, he thinks that that's the place to start
Right.
in his work. He
Right.
says that these types need to, at this point, at understanding that they attach, need to be aware of places where they unhealthily cling and allow discomfort.
Mhm.
I thought that was an interesting word for all the types.
Yeah.
But especially for the
particularly
9s.
for 9s. So one thing we have not mentioned yet is that 9s merge. So in our effort to keep the peace, and we'll probably talk about this more when we get into the shadow, but we sort of turn off we go to sleep to ourselves, and we have a tendency to attach ourselves to someone else and just become like them. So we let their desires be our desires because it's way easier than trying to stand up for myself. Oh my gosh, it's
conflict
so much
free.
easier. Conflict free. But that also means that when we get into unhealthy spaces, we actually attach ourselves so thoroughly that we've now become sort of like a parasite.
Yeah.
And we don't, like, when we cannot exist without another person, then now we're not whole anymore.
When we get to wake up calls in a second, that's all over some of the wake up calls,
Right.
which I found new material.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to hear your thoughts on that. But there's nothing wrong with establishing a practical role in the world with others. You have to
Right,
do it.
right.
But the attachment side obviously has that. It's not codependency. What is it? It's maybe codependency.
Interdependency? No,
Yeah.
it's parasitic.
It's parasitic.
Yeah.
I am losing myself in this relationship because I gain the attention, the security, the control.
Right. Well, and particularly for 9s, it's allowing someone else to become my whole world so that I don't have to do it.
Come on. Brings us to the shadow here. 9s are going to primarily fear losing connection.
Right.
This is the first domino towards dark places for 9s. So talk about that.
Well, there's a couple of different ways to look at this. I've talked about this a lot. The idea of like thinking about if we're all standing on an iceberg and the iceberg breaks up when we all start to drift our separate ways, like that's a big part of what we fear. But it's also like this is why we are afraid of conflict. This is why we don't stand up for ourselves, because if we assert ourselves, then we might ruin the relationship. And we fear the loss of that relationship. Once it's gone and we've sort of come to terms with that, it's kind of fine. But going through the process of that separation is torturous. Like it's because it's all conflict.
We didn't mention this with the harmony triad, but the message that 9s need to hear is your presence matters. That is a direct assault on the idea of losing yourself in a relationship.
Right.
Because if you lose yourself, you're invisible, you don't exist, you
Right.
don't matter.
Right.
That is the heart's message is always the first step on the opposite road to health. But this is the place where the fear and the heart's message that's where they really tug. It's in your identity and
Right.
value.
Right. If me standing up for myself means that we don't have a relationship anymore, then why on earth would I think that I matter?
Yeah. Come on.
Yeah.
That leads, that fear, when it manifests itself in the heart, becomes sloth. And this is another one of those steps where I need help there. Right? How does that work?
Well, because of like that idea of not wanting to lose relationship, it means that we are not So like all of this fits together. We don't want to lose relationship. We fear loss of connection. We fear separation, which means that we don't stand up for ourselves, which means we don't assert ourselves. We don't express our own wants and desires. And because of that, we don't engage our lives.
Yeah.
It is much easier to eat a bag of Oreos on the couch than to enter into spaces that might cause conflict in my relationships.
Sloth isn't rest.
Right.
It's not taking time to pause. Sloth is about what you care about. It's about not caring for things that actually matter.
Right.
The truth is that nines, hearts, souls, futures, presence matters robustly.
Right.
And then the sin is sloth.
Right.
Is being
And it's
walled off to that.
Yeah, it's not just the couch potato thing. Like that's an easy description, but it's not that. It's about not engaging your life in meaningful ways.
Yeah.
And that means you could be a workaholic who is also slothful
Yep.
in your workaholism.
Yep.
If you are neglecting the relationships of your family or your friends or the things that are actually important in order to continue working, which isn't important, that is sloth.
Investing in all the things that are superficial.
Right.
Sloth in the heart moves into the head as a fixation, and
Becomes indolence.
which we routinely say is one of the better words in the English language.
So good. And it is this mental pattern of sloth. It is getting to the point where you don't care about the things that are important anymore.
All of that is cyclical in that it just builds on itself. I don't care anymore in my head,
Yeah.
and therefore I can't engage my heart to care about passionately the things that matter.
And it all ties into the self as well. Like all of these things are directed at the self for the 9.
Works its way into relationships then, because if you don't care about yourself, and I don't care about them either.
Right.
In relationship, I imagine there's a checking out. I passive aggressively resist other people
Yeah.
because
Sort of disengage
I
with a
can-
smile.
because I can say you really don't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there it is. That's the 9 that feels they don't matter can easily then push that on others and say, well, of course you don't matter
Right.
either.
Right.
And that's a manifestation of unhealth.
Yep.
Eating disorders and addictions that Riso and Hudson list for 9s are overeating or undereating due to lack of self-awareness and repressed anger. Here's the repressed anger.
Yep.
Lack of physical anxiety, depressants, and psychotropics. There's another listing of depressants. What do you think?
I think that's supposed to say lack of physical activity,
What did I say?
anxiety.
Oh, lack of physical.
You read it correctly. I think that's supposed to say activity.
Depressants and psychotropics, alcohol, marijuana. I don't think that's been listed with any of the other ones,
I
but
don't
fits
think so either.
nicely with 9s, I bet.
I bet 9s love
'Cause-
marijuana.
Because every little thing's going to be all right.
It's going to be all right. Yeah.
Narcotics that deaden loneliness and anxiety.
Yeah.
Got some thoughts on that?
So we talked about downers with 4s. We talked about uppers with 7s. And I think the things that take over, like 9s are looking for deadeners.
Yep.
They call it narcotizing in the behavior, and it's anything that sort of shuts off our brains,
Yeah.
helps us disconnect from whatever's happening.
Yeah.
So I think alcohol can do this. I think 9s are probably less prone to heavy stimulants, but if the stimulant offers the sort of like shutdown that they're looking for, and that doesn't necessarily mean a shutdown of activity. That means we're trying to not have to pay attention to whatever. So
It's an extreme pacifying
mm-hmm.
of the conflict that might be around you.
Yep.
The thing that got me was the deaden to loneliness of some of the narcotics. We have a friend who got real unhealthy, had to go to the hospital. While they were in the hospital, a few of us went and cleaned out the friend's house.
Mm-hmm.
Underneath the friend's bed were 30 empty boxes of wine.
Yep.
It's like just liters and liters of wine that had gotten drunk in their bedroom.
Yeah.
And this person had lost somebody close to them earlier that year, and it was just one of those, oh dear God, this isn't good.
Yeah. There's a sort of mimetic joke about let's drink until we can't feel feelings anymore. And that is the addictive behavior of nines. Let's do this thing until we can't feel anything anymore. Because I'd rather be numb than have to engage.
Yeah. And again, this is the place the heart's message needs to speak over our addictions, that your presence matters. Your presence matters ends up being the contrary message or solution. It's the healthy solution instead of narcotizing.
Right.
Nines believe I will become present to my life only when I am completely at peace and without conflict or problems. When nothing in the world bothers or upsets me and everyone in my world is happy and at peace, then I will show up. What do you see there?
I'm trying to think of any kind of scenario that's not a coma in which this might actually happen. And there isn't one because the world is full of conflict. It's hard to live here and it kind of sucks, but it's also what life is.
And we've said this in the past that when nines rest actively, when they choose how they are going to pause and intentionally go to those places, they will realize the opposite is true.
Right.
That they have the peace that actually matters.
Right.
That those things in the world that are troubling and problematic, they have the strength to allow them not to upset them at those levels.
Mm-hmm.
That the people around them actually are often at places of happiness and at peace, and they don't need to. What would it be? It's not to be worried about that, but
anxious.
Yeah. Against that.
Yeah.
Working for what you already got.
Yep.
Rest, Sabbath, fasting, prayer, these all awaken us to how reality actually is and move against the lies that we often want to tell ourselves about when we'll show up.
And an important note for nines here is that rest and binging something on Netflix are not the same thing. Rest, like intentional, engaging rest, has to do with actually stopping the activity and not shutting off. Like you're not going to sleep to the world. You're intentionally resting from your own attempts to make peace, your inability to stop watching Netflix. You're like all of the ways that nines are so good at narcotizing. It is intentionally not doing those things or any other kind of activity. Being intentional about rest is a really, really, really hard thing for nines, and it actually is real rest for us, where those other things are just shutting off.
Good friend of ours is a 9. I believe he's a 9. Very active hiker.
Mm-hmm.
And the intentionality of I'm going to a place where I can not do anything productive intentionally, because this is a zone where I experience the peace of the world around me.
Yeah.
It's in his intuitive center is awakened to the nature that he loves. He routinely does this with his family. Very active form of resting.
Right. Right.
I don't know if that counts.
Yeah.
Does that sound like a 9?
Because you need to get away from your normal activities.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
Wake-up calls for 9s listed by Riesel and Hudson are denial of health, financial, or personal problems.
It's part of the positive outlook.
Long-standing resistance to getting help.
Yep.
Sense of inadequacy and emotional flatness.
Yeah, sure.
I like that word.
Because my presence doesn't matter.
General neglectfulness.
Uh-huh.
Because it's again about a lot of stuff here about value.
Mm-hmm.
Your own sense of your own value. Allowing themselves to be exploited.
Yep.
Again, sense of value. Feeling lost, confused, and disconnected. Any thoughts on wake-up calls there?
Yeah, I think they're all really good things to pay attention to. 9s, like that, wake up. You gotta wake up.
The thing that hits me here is it's not there's the heart's message, your presence matters. There is the need to have folks in your life like just crying out to you and your soul how valuable you are to them and to other people. Because the lie is going to be the opposite in terms of all these things. I can allow my health, my finances, my personal problems to get out of control because I lack value.
Yeah.
Value judgments are a big deal. Value judgments are not data. They're not something you discover in nature. They're 1,000%. They come out of your emotions and your heart in engaging that element of yourself, allowing your heart to be aware of your unsurpassable worth. Gotta get there.
Yep.
All right. 9s really want tranquility, but will settle for calm. Does that work for you?
I'm not sure how I feel about the word tranquility.
I think I replaced that one with something else. What was there before?
I don't know. Serenity?
I mean, it's probably 9s really want peace, but settle for calm. And I was like, we're using the word peace too much.
Yeah, sure. Makes sense.
I wonder if 9s really want value, but will settle for calm. In response to the wake-up calls, 9s really
How about
want...
harmony?
What do you really want?
Harmony. How about harmony?
Harmony works.
Yeah. Because
Harmony
harmony
within and... Yeah.
Harmony doesn't necessarily mean peace. Harmony means all things in balance.
Come on.
Yeah.
And that's your move against disconnection.
Yeah,
Harmony is another word for justice.
that is correct.
And that would place
So is order.
that value, in the body triad of 891. That would end up being another way to articulate the same idea, where 8s are justice oriented, 9s are harmony oriented, 1s are order oriented. All that's the same. The set rightness
Yeah.
is what it is for 1s.
Yep.
That all ends up being about the same kind of justice seeking.
Yep.
You want to get healthy?
I do. I really, really, really do.
At this point in time, when we did the one podcast on these, I was exhausted at this point. I was just
Yeah.
like, dear God, these are just
That's
awful.
because this felt like you were a punching bag.
Yes.
When you were going through it. We're just talking about facts about me.
Yeah, in this
Yeah.
isn't about, this is
I'm not emotionally invested in this.
just
I'm-
disconnect from it.
Yeah. I've shut down to myself. Yeah. This is just how 9s are. It's fine.
Well, what happens
It's going to
when
be all right, Jeff.
I was going to sing that song to you, bud. What happens when 9s let go of their addiction to keeping their inner and outer life conflict free?
Well, as we start to get healthy, this is what happens. We stop fighting conflict so much. We stop, let's say that better. We stop resisting conflict so much. And we get to move into spaces of health and action and living and engaging with the world. And we get to showcase a holy idea. We've talked about this for each type. Holy idea being a particular way that we are drawn into and refract the divine. And for 9s, we get to display holy love. Like, this is the thing that we're looking for, and it's sort of the balm for us, and it is also the way that we showcase part of God to the world. And for me, what this is about is when you talk about true, unconditional, and not attached, but sort of love without strings. You're talking about embracing the world, like first love for yourself, because you are important too, and that is a thing that 9s are really struggling with. But also, when we truly love other people, then we feel more able and comfortable saying what we want to them. We feel more comfortable being honest, and we feel less afraid of disconnection, because if I truly love someone and want to express love to them, then I cannot try to control them by refusing to tell them the truth.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
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 My take on it has been the same kind of take that I've done with all these, is that the holy idea is spun with divine before it. So like God's love for you is robust and everlasting, and you have unsurpassable value in God's eyes and are therefore the singular object of God's affection. And this counters so much of the shadow and needs to be the things stated into the wake-up calls that you are cared for in everlasting terms, cosmic terms, and are therefore invited into your virtue, which is action. And once one understands the holy idea that you have unsurpassable value and are cared for by God in such robust ways, the natural and obvious thing is to say, to internalize the heart's message. Your presence does matter, and therefore I'm going to act in the world.
Yeah. I've got work to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be curious how that works so I know a 9 who's going to become a parent soon. I'll be curious how that works. It may be the case that your presence mattering is known. So said parent.
Yeah. We'll see.
This one needs you now because they smelly.
Yeah.
Okay. So any thoughts on action?
Well, I think that like we've talked about this all throughout. The like one of the biggest things that the 9 struggle with is getting up, is engaging, is waking up to who we are and what we need to do, and in that space of refracting divine love, then we actually it's easier to do work if you know that the work you're doing matters and that you're the only one that can do it. So.
Some healing attitudes for 9s. Maybe I can make a difference.
Ah, come on now.
It's the only time you're not going to be snarky with these. Maybe I need to get energized and be involved.
Oh, but I just want a nap.
My favorite, I've said this story before, but Reagan, prior to his inauguration, his assistant comes in, knocks on the door. Hey, Mr. President-elect, it's your inauguration day. You need to get up. And Reagan looked at him and goes, do I have to?
Seriously.
He's going to get inaugurated as president. But hey, maybe you need to get energized and involved. Maybe I am more powerful than I realize.
The little sprinklings of experiencing these things sort of just peeking their head around the corner in my life has like just that little teeny tiny glimmer fills me with something that I can't express and like makes me want to wake up. So
here's the thing. We need you 9s to be your best self. This is what this entire thing has been about. Your story matters to the rest of us, because if you don't engage, the rest of us are in terrible spots. Because what do 9s bring to others?
Well, in that space of looking for peace and harmony in the world, we actually, and especially because we are asleep to ourselves and we're paying more attention to other people, we are very, very, very good at seeing the perspective of another. And so, like, that mediation place, like, we're really good at seeing the perspective of both sides and being able to communicate across the two sides. So person A feels this way, and I can communicate that to person B and vice versa. And we can help bring that sort of composure, that sort of level-headedness, the stability there. When we wake up and assert ourselves in the world, then we actually bring the kind of peaceful level-headedness that the world on fire may need.
Right? There is a side to 9s when healthy, where they're going to reflect healthy 3s and become more self-developing, become more energetic, push towards goals, allow the value that they experience in themselves to flow into the world around them because they have self-understanding. Here's what I bring, and it's not just valuable, it's absolutely necessary to a world on fire.
Right.
When 9s lead, and 9s can be stellar leaders, what do you see?
Well, we talked about Reagan and Obama, great uniters and stabilizers. So both of them came into power at the end of great tumult.
Yep.
And were able to just sort of calm things down. You get people who are looking for consensus and are going to be able to be vehicles for that. Nines who are awake and healthy and step into uncomfortable positions of leadership and find that they can stand underneath it. They are able to really draw in everyone else because they are aware of the needs and values of other people, and they are able to articulate that and unite different kinds of perspectives.
Love, especially in organizations, seeing nines at the top.
Yeah.
Being the leaders of the room.
Yeah.
In our work, you guys may not know this. TJ actually is the one that leads a lot of our meetings, and it's just a joy to step in and just get to be a participant in those spaces because the spirit is different than a lot of the other types. Not to knock other types who are in leadership, but there is a special spirit in when nines are in leadership that is that consensus making, that we're all in this together, that we're going to have communication that's very clean, and when healthy, is aware that we're going to act and do the good things in the world.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
It's good.
Anything else on the nines?
No, I got nothing.
Friends, it would mean the world to us if you'd pause, take 2 seconds, write us a brief review, and give us some stars. You can find us on Instagram at Around the Circle Podcast. But the best thing you can do is share this episode with somebody that you love. If you dig our deep dives into pop culture, we may be doing one next. But you can help us select upcoming series on our Patreon page, which is linked on Twitter. You got anything else, my man?
Nah, I think I'm good.
He's TJ Wilson. He is officially awesome. I am Jeff Cook. And who you aren't isn't interesting. Be who you are, and you're going to set the world on fire.
Morning will come, burning with hope. I'm waiting here for you.